Hey guys, I'm Dan Langaro from www.mycomicblog.com, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Civil War Marvel Comics event. The basic premise of this story is there are two sides. There are people who are for the government regulating superhumans, and there are people obviously against the government regulating superhumans. When I say people, I mean the superheroes themselves, as it seems in this at least, most of the average Americans want the super beings to be regulated. Leading the regulation is Tony Stark, Iron Man, and surprisingly the opposition is led by Captain America. Now, I think this shows more of Captain America's, spirit of America, like the spirit of freedom, not necessarily just blindly following the government, which I thought was a good, it showed off the character well, which is kind of surprising for the comic itself, as I'll explain later. The basic, as you read in the first few pages, the basic catalyst for this entire event is there are a few, not well-known superheroes. I think they were created just for this series. I don't know. I'm not 100%. Anyways, there's a few not very known heroes on a reality TV show. And for the ratings, they go against a few villains that are a little bit above their tier. And this eventually invokes one of the villains named Nitro to blow himself up, I believe killing all the heroes, but it takes out, there's a school nearby, and so it takes out a bunch of kids, and obviously that makes a lot of people very angry, and brings everyone to think about, they want superhumans to be, more responsible and regulated. And to me, this is a very good story to, there's no technically right side. Like, you could say, why should, the superheroes have to pay for this, seeing as it was the supervillain who blew everything up. Like, it's not really the superhero's fault, but also, what's so wrong about having superheroes regulated, almost like a police force, having them trained so they know how to deal with certain things. You don't have any psychos dressing as heroes just to break the laws. So it's a very, it's a very good debate you could have. It's like, as any regulation, government regulation over anything, it's very interesting in the Marvel world. Anyways, the art itself and the comic layout is pretty good. I mean, I'm going to show you one of my favorite scenes in the book. There's Captain America, who literally just got into a huge fight with Iron Man. And I love Captain America, but, Iron Man is this huge million, maybe even billions now, I don't know, I don't really read Iron Man, machine with all the stuff that can read, Captain America's moves. So obviously if he's going to get into a one-on-one fight with him, Captain America's not going to fare too well. But I love this picture, you could see, I mean, his uniform's ripped. He looked really messed up, but he's not going to give up. Like he says, you really think I'm going down to some pampered punk like you? I thought this comic actually gave the embodiment of Captain America very, very well, which is surprising because I'm not a huge Iron Man fan, but I've heard from other readers of the story that this gives Tony Stark Iron Man, this gives Tony Stark a very, bad view. You almost view him as a villain. And by the end of the story, I mean, I always kind of liked Iron Man more, not really the character, but just like the uniform. I always thought it was cool and stuff. But by the end of it, I mean, I started to almost dislike Tony Stark. And, I had that from other readers. I mean, if I was a big Iron Man, Tony Stark fan, I'd be a little annoyed that this story is making my favorite character come off as like a jerk. And not just a jerk, you just don't really like him, you know what I mean? Like, I know if you see from the movies and read some of the comics, he's supposed to be, a little bit like not super sarcastic, but just kind of like dry humor, a little bit of a jerk, but not too bad. But it's a very unlikable character. It's not super unlikable. You see all the things behind his actions, but he's just not super likable. Also, Mr. Fantastic's not too major in this book, but I've heard other readers say that once again he's another character that wasn't really represented well with all the past the comics history. So that's, I have to say, a downside. Also, with Spider-Man, he does a very surprising thing in this. If you don't know, I don't want to say it. I'm sure most of you know about it because it was big news back when this came out. But Spider-Man does a very surprising that's kind of out of character, and they actually had to retcon it. And I didn't read it, but someone told me about it. It took all this huge, long, all these problems with the issues in Amazing Spider-Man just trying to retcon what he did in Civil War. So there's lots of things in here that just are a little bit out of character. You saw the artwork before. It's pretty good, I mean, it's kind of standard for the time. I mean, I like it. It looks good. Nothing super unique, but I mean, it looks good. It looks pretty good. Here's a cool pic of Punisher and Spider-Man. don't want to give too much away by showing some of this stuff. Just to close it off, the one thing I did not like about this series was the ending. To me, it brought the entire book down. I don't know. It wasn't horribly done. It was just kind of weak, and I don't want to say rushed, but it seemed a little rushed. It seemed a little weak. It also may have been due to, you know, I don't want to give anything away, but maybe I'm a little biased or whatever. But I don't know. I didn't think it was a great story. I think the story's pretty good, but I didn't think it was a great ending. So it brought the book down a decent amount for me. But it was definitely still worth reading. I've read it a few times after the first read, so it's definitely worth getting. So giving this a rating on the www.mycomicblog.com rating system, I give it a B/B+, primarily because of the ending. But besides that, it's definitely worth picking up if you don't have it. You know, it's pretty important Marvel history, I guess you want to say, and it's definitely worth it. Even if Tony Stark's your favorite character and you hate what they did to him in this, it has some great. I'm just gonna do a couple little flipping. It has some really great, you know, battle scenes between, you know, the heroes themselves. It's just very cool. I mean, here's one of the covers. I want to try not to give too much of the story away. You can just imagine how cool it is to read about your favorite heroes just beating the crap out of each other. It sounds weird, but, you know, I'm sure most comic book fans have thought about that. So I really suggest picking this up. I bought this for $25, so it's a little on the pricey side, but to me it's worth picking up just to catch up on the history if you ever missed it. Alright, thanks for watching. I'm Dan Langaro again, and please visit www.mycomicblog.com for more comic reviews, hopefully some video reviews, and a podcast coming out, hopefully, January 2012. Thanks, guys.